this cruelty. It's about terrorizing communities. It's about appearing tough. I've said it and I'll repeat it. Weakness masquerading as strength. Weakness masquerading as strength. And so we're here mindful of people living here. I said to someone, I said, I got it easy. White guy, all the privileges. Talking to members of the community, they feel like democracy is already gone.
The governor of California is under massive pressure, but instead of compromise, he attacks Trump head on with a sentence that sounds like morality, but smells like raw power. He says what matters to him isn't the law, but moral authority. And that's exactly what we are diving into. Because from where I stand, as a German watching from the outside, a lot of this doesn't look helpful. Not for California, not for America. I've pulled together some sharp clips. Fox News and CNN, like two alternate realities on a collision course. Liberal voices suddenly calling for bipartisanship, and a legal maneuver from the left trying to criminalize Trump's deportation agenda by criminalization suspicion itself. So yeah, today is gonna be wild. Let's start with the attempt to make immigration enforcement legally impossible.
So a federal judge issued a temporary restraining order against a lot of the ICE operations that have been carried out in Southern California just a couple of days ago. But in his order, he said this: defendants can't rely solely on the factors below, alone, or in combination to form reasonable suspicion for a detentive stop, except as permitted by law. He says apparent race or ethnicity, speaking Spanish or speaking English with an accent, presence at a particular location like a bus stop, a car wash, a tow yard, a day labor, pickup site, agricultural site, etc., or the type of work that one does. Now, the way that the LA mayor, Karen Bass, who celebrated this ruling, described it, she says this administration has been masked men grabbing people off the street, chasing working people through parking lots, and marching through children's summer camps.
You can't miss what's going on here. The goal isn't to fix the problem. It's to discredit Trump, legally and morally. That's why they bring up children. That's why they talk about summer camps. It's meant to trigger outrage. And yes, it works. If your goal is to mobilize resistance, this is perfect. But if your goal is to actually manage migration, it solves absolutely nothing. Let's be honest. Deportations are ugly, no matter what side you are on. But do America really want to repeat of the Biden-era footage? Tens of thousands of people marching across South America, caravans heading straight for the border? You can judge everything through a moral lens. But if a country can't or won't control its border, then others will. And some of them will do real harm. Ironically, that harm often hits the very minorities these politicians claim to protect. Instead of separating the good from the bad, they pass laws that make law enforcement harder and polarize the country even more. Especially when the governor tries to present this mess as if it's all just about compassion. Check this here.
They have a 15-year employee. He won't even show up to work. He's here with documentation, but he's scared to death. He hasn't shown up in weeks since 4 raids occurred and nearby. He won't even show up because he's scared to death of being pulled over for simple reason because of the way he looks, because he's being racially profiled. I met a mother and her beautiful daughter. Daughter's going to Bible school. She just got off. She was walking in an ice cream store. And her mom came to me. She says, I'm here legally, but I'm carrying my passport if you need any proof. I said, you don't need to impress me. She's here legally. She's carrying her passport, and her daughter is just coming back from Bible school. That's Trump's America. 2025.
A little girl on the way back from Bible school. That's an image they gave us. And forgive me, I had to smirk. Not because it's funny, because it's just so obvious. The emotional framing, the soft lightning, the heartbreaking, a little girl with the Bible. Imagine if Fox News had done the same, but flipped the roles. A mom shot in front of their kids by a cartel member. Wouldn't the left call that fear-mongering? Here's the problem. When both sides paint with broad strokes, everyone gets lost in blur. Victims, criminals, hardworking immigrants, all thrown into the same emotional blender, and nothing gets solved. Honestly, isn't that why this debate has gone nowhere for the past 10 years? Every moral outcry from the progressive side only feels the radical pushback from the right. So yes, we should say it. Democrats helped to create this mess, not out of hate, but out of unwillingness to confront reality. And meanwhile, law enforcement is caught in the middle, being told to fix a problem they are not longer allowed to touch. Let's listen this here.
You said in an interview this week that reasonable suspicion can be based on, quote, the location, their occupation, their physical appearance, their actions. What about an individual's physical appearance would give immigration agents, quote, reasonable suspicion that they might be in the U.S. illegally?
Well, first of all, let me be clear. Physical description can't be the sole factor to give you reasonable suspicion. As I said in an interview, it's articulable facts with an S. So appearance can be just one. For instance, if someone has an MS-13 tattoo on their face, that may be one factor to add to other factors to raise reasonable suspicion. I want to be clear about that again because my words are taken out of context. Physical description cannot be the sole reason to detain and question somebody. That can't be the sole reason to raise reasonable suspicion. It's a myriad of factors, and I can sit here for the next half hour and give you all the factors. So every officer, every situation is different. But I can tell you this: every ICE officer goes through Fourth Amendment training every 6 months and reminded what their authorities are for arrest, detention, and questioning. So the officers are very well trained. So I look forward to DOJ litigating this judge's decision because I think she's making a decision without knowing what that officer knows when they get out of that vehicle to question something.
Let's be real. Everyone agrees that border control matters. But if you are out looking for undocumented migrants, you're probably not scanning for a white mom with a stroller and a Starbucks latte. You're looking for the patterns. People don't speak the language, who hang out on sketchy street corners, who might be selling drugs or their bodies. And over the time, experience teaches you what to look for. That's not racism. That's pattern recognition. And every cop in every country in the world works the same way. Of course, the law says you can't rely on appearance alone. And that's fair. But trying to legislate away human instinct, that's wishful thinking. Progress tried the same thing with the gender debate, redefining reality by decree. But reality has a habit of pushing back. And here's the real danger. If you refuse to separate the good from the bad, people will start to see everyone as bad. And that's exactly what we are seeing now. The system is overloaded, the politics are paralyzed, and trust completely gone. Listen to this and ask yourself, what are officers supposed to do?
Holman has said it very clearly in other interviews. They're not even asking for significant findings to detain people. They're going based on appearance, his words, not mine, based on occupation, his words, not mine, based on accents, physical appearance. Then what if I was outside of Home Depot, because I like to do some work around the house, not dressed in a suit, would I be a target of ICE enforcement under Tom Holman? Probably. And it's just wrong. It's not just due process rights that have become the concern, but racial profiling. When federal agents involved in immigration enforcement are using racial profiling, they're not enforcing the law, they are breaking it.
I honestly don't get the outrage about so-called racial profiling. If someone gets stopped and they're here legally, they show their papers or a photo of the documents on their phone. Problem solved. End of the story. But if the real concern is abuse of power by ICE agents, there's a solution for that too. Give every officer a visible ID number and require one of them to film the operation. Simple, transparent, accountable. But let's not pretend that the real issue is enforcement itself. The problem isn't ICE doing its job. The problem is that many politicians don't want the job done at all. So they create legal obstacle, moral panic, and media firestorms just to shut the whole thing down. But someone has to do the work. And if you don't let the system function, you don't get order, you get chaos. Let's hear what they have to say. Check this here.
One thing I have heard over and over anecdotally is that people who are in the United States legally, are scared about getting swept up in all of this because of the color of their skin, because they speak with an accent, because of the location where they might be going. And they're not going out. They don't want to be detained by mistake, have their kids or themselves traumatized. Are you comfortable with that?
If they're in the country legally, they got no reason to be afraid. ICE is looking for those in the country legally, and we're still prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats. That's the priority. But like I said, you know, we do have collateral arrests in many areas because we're out looking for those public safety threats. But we're going to enforce immigration law too. I mean, it's not okay to be in this country legally. It's not okay to enter this country legally. It's a crime. But legal aliens shouldn't, and U.S. citizens should not be afraid that they're going to be swept up in a raid. We know who we're looking for, and that's what the agents are out there seeking. And they use a lot of information. Most of the operations we conduct are targeted enforcement operations. When we go out, we know exactly who we're looking for. Most likely we'll find them. Many times we have a criminal history and immigration history when we go out looking for that person. So if you're in the country legally, you shouldn't fear ICE. What you should fear is the criminal aliens walking the communities in sanctuary cities.
Of course, that's only half the truth. It's not just violent criminals getting deported. In reality, it's anyone who's here illegally, especially those who haven't been in the country for very long. But let's be honest, that's how mass migration works. You don't stop it by handing out sympathy. You stop it by sending a clear signal to the world. There's a limit, there's a line, there's a hard stop. You have to break the illusion of hope. But Democrats can't bring themselves to do that. They see themselves as the last moral authority. And because of that, they refuse to be part of the solution. At least not alongside Trump. Maybe it's pride. Maybe it's just refusal to admit that past administration, including their own, let this problem spiral out of control. But whatever it is, it's paralyzing the system. Let's hear what they say next.
There is not a glamorous side to the problem that we have in this country. And I think that there was a long time where we denied that there was a problem in this country. We had people, humanitarian crises at the border for a long time. And that has been solved. And I think we should appreciate that that has been solved. Now, what to do with the millions and millions of people who are here? That is a problem that I don't know that there's a good, easy answer to. Now, we do need to have better, we need to have facilities, we need to have judges who can process this, and that is really where the big backlog is. People end up in facilities like this because people that we realize or that we know probably should be deported, we don't have any way to process their claims. So there's a lot that needs to be fixed here. This is probably not the model, at least, that people are thinking that it should be. But I think it's important to appreciate that there needs to be something done to address what we have here.
If deportation had a human face, it would be called harsh, intimidating, just like a bouncer outside a nightclub. Not friendly, not smiling, but necessary. Because when someone causes trouble, it's guys like that who throw them out to protect everyone else inside. Sometimes all it takes is one person to ruin an entire party and 1,000 unchecked entries that can break an entire city. That's it from me for today. If this made you think, like, share, subscribe. See you until next time. Ciao.